Students are seen at school each and every day, but does this really help us understand if students are prepared? And exactly how prepared are students with the help of high school? When a student moves on from high school and what a student anticipates post-secondary education to be is often far from the reality ahead. Alarmingly, the number of students that are unprepared for post-secondary education is increasing, and many students are unaware of how unprepared they may be, putting them at the threat of falling behind and doing poorly in classes. As a result, students are heavily affected by not being accustomed to the standards of post-secondary level courses. This includes the difficulty of new and old content, heavy workloads, as well as difficulties in testing. Essentially, students need to be educated in a way that makes them comfortable to a variety of learning situations. This documentary will explore the opinions revolving around preparedness from current Orchard Park students, teachers, as well as an Orchard Park graduate. Our audience is specifically Orchard Park students, most importantly, those who are in their graduating year, and are moving onwards to a recognized post-secondary program. The purpose of this documentary is to discover whether students are prepared or unprepared for future academics based on their personal experiences at Orchard Park and with the learning curriculum itself. Understanding that not every student will be prepared fully for education at any point, we will attempt to find whether or not Orchard Park needs to drastically improve its impact on student preparation, or if Orchard Park is leading its students in the right direction for post-secondary education.
In order to find out more information about whether students are thoroughly prepared or not, we decided to interview a few students, teachers, and an OP graduate on their thoughts.
Do you believe you're actually prepared for post-secondary education? And do you feel you're unprepared for any certain things?
I do feel unprepared because I feel like I haven't really learned how to manage my time. And maybe that's because of the whole idea of procrastinating, right? If you want to be able to time manage, then you have to learn how to not procrastinate. And I feel like myself is that the way the high school system works is that a lot of students tend to procrastinate. And I feel like that's one way I feel unprepared, is I think I'm someone who is kind of lazy and does procrastinate. And I also feel like I personally don't feel prepared for post-secondary because I don't feel like I have the skills that are needed in the reading and writing section in university, because I've been told that university is like a completely different ballgame.
Do teachers prepare you for the real world?
I feel like the way teachers try to help prepare students for post-secondary is that whole concept of learning how to be independent.
What are your thoughts on the cheat sheet/aid sheet and its use in learning? Is it a valuable tool for students, or is it something that is detrimental to the learning and preparation for a student considering post-secondary education?
I really feel like the cheat sheet is detrimental.
Kind of stupid.
What university and program are you attending?
I plan on taking my talents to University of Waterloo for software engineering.
Do you feel as you have successfully been prepared by the school for that program?
Not really,
Why or why not?
because the computer science courses have such a vague curriculum, and we do really little useful coding that will actually prepare me for what they're going to teach me there. For my course specifically, software engineering and also computer science, which is a lot of people are going into that, and the thing with that is you need a portfolio. When you're applying for co-op, when you're applying for a job, you need a portfolio. You can't just say, oh, I learned this in my grade 11 computer science class. No. I think something that would be better would be you work towards building a project that you can add to your portfolio in grade 11 and grade 12, because then you've got two things in your portfolio which are very valuable when applying for a job. And even having a club just to develop a portfolio, even simple things. If you have a long list of simple things, it still shows that you are interested in your initiative that you take into developing a portfolio for whatever language.
As a teacher, what are some aspects of learning that you try to teach or include in hopes of getting students prepared?
Well, I try to make students into problem solvers so that they can take ideas they get from class and actually apply it to new situations, because that's what's important in the real world, is not just what you learn, but can you use that knowledge outside of school.
What are some things other teachers do or not do that would help a student before leading to post-secondary education?
Well, I think what we try to do, or some teachers try to do, is make students self-learners. I think often students have the idea that to be taught means to sit and watch a teacher talk to them, but that's not actually learning. Learning can be done on your own in many different ways. So I think throughout high school, teachers need to slowly make students into better self learners. Examples of things like reviews. Students always want a review sheet, but I think students should be able to make their own review based on a unit.
So, do you have any tips for students moving to post-secondary education that you'd like to share?
Well, one thing I would encourage students to do is get an agenda book or use a calendar on your cell phone to keep up with deadlines and due dates. Because I think you get into a bad downward spiral when you're late with one thing, so you're skipping another class to do that thing, and then you got to skip another class to do that thing. So please keep up with due dates.
How well do you think your students are prepared for post-secondary education?
Generally speaking, I would say not very. And I know that it's the easy, sort of cynical answer to say that I don't think my students are very well prepared. But I actually think that there are problems with the system that they're going through and the things that are being emphasized and demanded of them. And I feel like some important changes need to occur if they're going to be prepared well for it.
Do you have any experience or reason as to why students may feel overwhelmed by post-secondary education?
Absolutely. I don't think that we do enough to promote an academically rigorous work ethic in the students. I think that we give students way too much time to do assignments and then don't demand that those assignments are actually submitted when the due date arrives. Students don't ask enough questions. They don't seem to feel responsible for learning the material that teachers demand of them. And one of the clearest signs of that is that whenever I give review to students, it seems as though an overwhelming percentage of the students in my classes are encountering all of that information for the first time. Even though I may have given lessons and given tasks designed to help check students' understanding of things, they tune out during lessons, they don't take notes, they don't do the formative work that we ask for them to do, and then they have to do a test or some other major evaluation without ever having learned the material that's demanded of them. And when you go to university, you're given a syllabus and a list of readings at the beginning of the semester and a couple of dates when things are going to be due. And I don't know how students who are so completely undisciplined in being responsible for their own education are going to suddenly turn it on and figure out how to do that. One of my classes, I showed a clip from a documentary that was pretty provocative, and without even getting into the subject matter, I showed it to them. I stood up in front of the class and I said, what is your reaction to this? And there was literally nothing, like no thoughts at all about it. And that's not a failure on the part of the curriculum. It's the students not willing to engage, not willing to try, not willing to think, not willing to take the risk of saying, here's how I feel about that, and maybe have someone say, okay, well, I mean, you're wrong about how you feel, or whatever. And to me, that's the epidemic that we face right now.
So is there anything that the current system of high school fails to teach and you would like to change and implement?
Well, I mean, there are certain subjects that might be of some benefit to the students, but I mean, a lot of people say like we should be teaching things like personal finance or something like that. But I mean, those are options that are presently available, I think. Is there a personal finance class? I think there is. Or citizenship. But I mean, we teach a civics class that most people are completely dismissive of. And those are the sorts of things that I think have some level of importance. But I think that if students are curious and they bring that curiosity into the classroom, most teachers are fairly academic and will respond to that curiosity and help to nurture it. And it's I know that it seems that like I'm placing all of the blame for students' potential troubles on the students, but I just know on my end, I feel like I do my song and dance up in front of the classroom all the time, and feel like I spend half the semester begging students to respond to me. And that's got to change.
After our interview with Mr. Powell, it is safe to say and conclude that a student's preparation is indeed based on the establishment of a strong set of non-cognitive skills. These skills give them strategies to underpin success at school, and all of these exemplary skills are helpful in building independence. In our opinion, a prepared student is one who doesn't wait for opportunities to learn, spends time learning outside of school, and approaches their instructor for methods of improvement and further learning frequently. And so students at Orchard Park, or any student in general, should be dedicated and driven to go above expectations because this will again foster their ability to work alone.
How was your transition to post-secondary? Did you do well in some areas, or did you struggle to keep up?
My transition to post-secondary education was quite difficult. Some of the things I struggled in was sort of the content overall, but not necessarily that the content was harder. I always explain it in the sense that it's like you're moving from grade 9 to grade 10 to grade 11 to grade 12. Like it just gets a little bit harder, but you're building on what you've learned. I think what's harder about post-secondary education is that you're taught a lot of content in a much shorter amount of time. In high school, you learn over a broader amount of time. You have like multiple tests. You're constantly talking to your teachers. You have one-on-one. You're being told to do your homework. You're being told what you're assigned, and it's a lot easier for you to study that way. I think having someone tell you to do stuff, and have that checklist in your head. Whereas in secondary school, it's post-secondary. Sorry, it's mostly you have one midterm that may be like 40 to 50% of your mark, and then you have one exam that's 50% of your mark. There's like no one-on-one time with the prof unless you make the decision to go to their office hours, which a lot of students do not do. And there's a lot of content that you have to study on your own. I think in my first year, the majority of classes are 3 hours per week. However they're split up, it's just 3 hours per week. So that's like 3 hours of, say, anatomy. The rest of the time, there's like 4 or 5 hours that you have to go back in. You have to study that lecture content again. You have to make your own notes, and you have to make sure you understand it. And that's not the only course you have. You have labs. You have other classes on top of that. So it was quite difficult, especially because I've never experienced that before. So yeah, the transition was rough.
Is there anything high school has failed to teach you or other students before moving to post-secondary?
I feel like high school helped you get to post-secondary, but doesn't necessarily prepare you for it, in the sense that they hold your hand a little bit. Props usually don't give you extensions on deadlines. It's like if you don't hand it in, there goes like 20% of your mark. Whereas in high school, it's like I really need help with something, they'll give you a deadline for it. Or if you're having if you skip a test, for example, you can still make that test up later. In university, that doesn't work like that. If you skip your midterm, that's it. That mark of your midterm is going to be pushed to your exam. And there's little things like that I feel that high school will help you get to post-secondary school, in the sense that you have chances to do better and you have a lot more opportunities to try to get your grades up. But once you're in post-secondary, you don't have the help anymore, and I think that really messes up a lot of students because they're not used to that.
Education is crucial to students, but is whatever they're learning an accurate representation of what they should be learning. Unlike high school, post-secondary courses require a student to more than ever study and complete work on one's own time. There's more content in a shorter period of time and less reliance on the teacher. What we can take away from our primary research is that students need to be more obligated to focus on working on their own. High school gives students due dates, reminds them to finish work, gives review days for assignments and tests, time to complete assigned work in class, and provides more one-on-one interaction with teachers. A student's independence is not being built. Rather, students rely on their teacher for help and reminders. This scenario is drastically different in post-secondary, where students must be active leaders in their own education. From our findings, we can conclude that Orchard Park actually does a great job at teaching students content necessary for post-secondary. Not only do teachers teach what is required of students, but they go above and beyond when it comes to ensuring students are effectively prepared to solve higher-order thinking problems and build upon their critical analysis. Teachers like Mr. Paul initiate this problem solving by taking ideas that a student learns in class and making one apply it to real-world situations. We see that many teachers do not like the sit down and learn from me approach. Instead, they promote self-learning. By utilizing everything one has learned and by connecting it to a problem, a student can apply their learning and retain information for an extended period of time.
From the students we interviewed, we can see that academics are only one side of the matter, and that an average Orchard Park student who has worked hard to get into their respective post-secondary institution is not so much worried about content. Rather, they are concerned with other aspects. For example, a lack of knowledge in one particular area, such as English. At the same time, they are unsure of what they may or may not learn, and how much they know or don't know of material. Regardless, they feel as if academically they have the non-cognitive skills necessary to help them learn, as in they're confident with their ability to work independently.
Using the primary research collected, we can connect to the results we found and determine why Orchard Park students are prepared or unprepared, as well as if Orchard Park's educational system does a good enough job of preparing students.
It was apparent that Orchard Park actually hindered its students in a way, this being with the presence of an 8-sheet. In general, these are detrimental to one's learning as it opts to give students an easy way of preparing for an assessment. Students can write almost everything they learned without actually understanding any of it at all. With minimal efforts needed to do well, the 8-sheet gives students the marks they need for post-secondary programs, but leaves them with no knowledge necessary for their programs. So as a result, Orchard Park's use of the 8-sheet may actually backfire on some students. However, some students do benefit from the 8-sheet, not from the content on the sheet, but they benefit from writing down what they know and reviewing content they will need to know for an assessment. This again builds a student's critical thinking skills, ability to act independently, and allows them to reflect and delve into material learned. In conclusion, the cheat sheet, while a valuable asset for many students due to its ability to drastically increase one's mark, can easily cause many students to be unprepared. Although some may benefit from its true intended purpose, a better method of causing students to work independently and refine their skills should be implemented.
Although we did discover that teachers attempted to get their students to act independently, others, for example Mr. Powell's, felt that Orchard Park did not do a good enough job of giving students a taste of an academically rigorous work ethic. He also felt students were given too much leniency with assignment deadlines. Because of this, students have little initiative to learn, they do not ask questions or feel responsible for learning material a teachers demand of them.
In general, it is not the curriculum that has underprepared students or the teachers who have failed in their part to prepare a student. Rather, the Orchard Park students that are unprepared for post-secondary education are those who are unwilling to take initiative and exceed expectations. As students, we are responsible for our own learning, and that means we are the biggest determinants of how prepared we are. Based off of our findings, and to ensure students can be most ready for further education, we have compiled a list of recommendations and next steps for students.
1. Get an agenda or calendar to keep up with deadlines, because once you miss one due date, you will have to make up for it by sacrificing time, in turn causing a downward spiral in other classes, prolonging bad habits, and putting a student in bad position. This simple and effective method helps students divide their day into blocks and estimate how much time they have to take to complete tasks in a way that complements their lifestyle.
2. Take initiative of your learning, of what you want to learn, and ask for help. Learn more and research on your own. This comes back to becoming independent. You must first feel confident in your own abilities to improve and seek for more help when necessary. This could be online, from a teacher, or a friend.
3. Patience. There is no circumstance where you have to be tough on yourself if you do feel unprepared. It takes time to adjust in post-secondary, and as you get through your semesters, you will eventually have built strong non-cognitive skills, helping you adapt to the new environment. Eventually, you will be able to handle post-secondary and improve then some. Remember, it takes time for a drastic change in life to settle in. Finally, we may now ask, what does Orchard Park have to do for its students?
Well, Orchard Park needs to again attempt to focus on a system that makes students delve into material on their own and be more independent. They also have to offer more to individual students' interests and should attempt to give students experience in certain areas that they would like to participate in. For example, we have our blogs club where students gain valuable experience, learn, and have fun, but we don't have a key club where students work to serve children in the world and perform acts of service in the community. This club for high school students allows one to connect with others internationally, so someone interested in this or going into subject areas such as international relations may appreciate what they can learn from this group, while one going to mechatronics engineering or areas of computer science may enjoy the first-hand opportunities they will have to learn. If unable to do this, Orchard Park should create and organize a website or place where students can look to find these opportunities online and gain experience. Other than that, more teachers should continue to focus on aspects of critical thinking and offer more support to students who are willing to learn more in preparation for post-secondary. This also means students should be more engaged in discussions, ask more questions, and extend their learning outside of the classroom. Students need to learn more themselves, on top of what is required, and by making more classes inquiry-driven, a student will be more prepared independently and inclined to take initiative and finish schoolwork.
In the end, it is okay to not be fully prepared for post-secondary education, but making sure you can identify what you should prepare for will definitely ease your transition when you do begin. By carrying good habits and taking on these approaches to learning, one can definitely do well at a higher level of education. There are always challenges you will face in post-secondary, but by using these recommendations and seeking guidance, as well as building your own independence, there's no doubt you cannot be prepared.